Let's just add another cube for the face and subdivide the mesh in edit mode a little bit. From here on out, you can select and move around the vertices to form the basic face shape. Use X-Mirror and X-Ray, which you can find in the header, to help you out with this step. You can also use a cube to add the wings and adjust the form in the same way. A plane is all you need for the tail feather, cylinders for the feet and legs. You can also redefine the origin of an object in the right-click context menu to rotate these cylinders around a different point. This will make angling the leg joints a bit easier. Right now, the character is kind of intersecting with the ground level, so moving it up a little bit is a good idea to make it really stand on the 0 point of the world. Now we have everything laid out, but it's still only one side. In the fundamentals, the modifiers were briefly mentioned, but barely used. Modifiers are an alternative way of modeling to the usual modeling manually and destructively in edit mode. Let's delete one side of the face and add a mirror modifier in the modifier tab. This will mirror the geometry using a set axis across the origin point of the object. Of course, if you move your vertices around, it might still move onto the other side and not properly merge at the center anymore. For this, you can enable the option clipping, which will make geometry stick to the center. But be careful not to accidentally clip vertices, or you will have to disable clipping again to make them unstuck. The other most essential modifier is the subdivision surface modifier, or subdiv in short. This divides your object and smooths the result to add more detail and definition. If your viewport is ever getting too slow because of all the divisions, there are separate sliders for the render and the viewport divisions. The optimal display toggle is also removing all of the new divisions from the wireframes to give a smooth and optimized view of your model. Using this modifier as a preview in edit mode, you can then easily define a smooth shape with a fraction of the geometry. Adding the mirror modifier to the wing unfortunately doesn't quite work in this case unless we change the origin and the rotation of the object so that it mirrors everything perfectly across to the other side. But there is a trick. You can assign a mirror object, which will then be used as the origin to mirror from. So you can click on the color picker icon and pick the cube in the center, and the wing will appear on the other side of the cube. Repeat this process for the other objects and try the other modifiers if you want and experiment. With all of these new objects, it's time to organize the file a little bit. I'll move the light and the camera into a new collection and exclude it for now. You can also rename the objects and collections however much you want. Now it's time to model the object further. In my case, I'll continue to define the face. Switch over to edit mode and use the loop cut tool or the shortcut Ctrl R for adding extra loops, for refining the shapes and adding more geometry to push around. Grab, rotate and scale the mesh to resemble the general form you want to go for. You can also press G twice to slide vertices and edges along instead of freely moving them. By selecting and extruding some faces, we can create a nose and beak area. If you slide the upper edge fully into one side, you can merge these vertices by distance by using the M menu. The eyes were so far missing, so I'll add them as spheres as well. For some extra definition, add more objects and extrude some areas like eye sockets and the beak. Moving on to the cube itself, we can add just a little bit more definition by using the bevel tool or the shortcut Ctrl B. Using that on all the edges, we can add a bit of a beveled curve to catch some light and make it a bit smoother. Make it a bit more crisp around the edges, we can add some extra loops. For the other objects, it's pretty much the same thing. Define the shapes further and add more loops. The mirror modifier is your friend. Extrude for thickness, then add a subdiv modifier for smoothing, then add some more loops for sharper edges, duplicate and transform the tail feather. Add another mirror modifier to the new feather and define the middle feather as the mirror object to automatically mirror the feather to the other side as well. Keep duplicating the feathers to make a little bunch of tail feathers. Continue like this for the other objects and also try out the other tools in the toolbar and also the other operators in the menus in the header and just experiment. Once you're done, you can apply some of the modifiers if you want or just directly continue with shading.